everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Inforunners podcast. And today we're going to be talking about something really near and dear to everyone's heart, which is actually the missions in Star Citizen. And we're not talking about what we currently have. We're talking about the future of Star Citizen and kind of our hopes and dreams and what we would like to actually see and think they're actually going to do. I'm DaseinWasHere.
And I'm Execute. And I guess a part of this is really going to kind of be what we could have and what we would like it to be. And I think it could be very two different things. But I'm hoping that, unlike most MMOs, or as Dyson was saying before the show, this is just not a lot of fetch quests. It's a bit more unique. And some of the things we've already heard from CIG and people like Tony Zerovic. I'm still kind of curious to know how procedurally generated the stuff's going to be. And I'd also like to know how handcrafted things are. And I think the only kind of tidbit we've kind of got to go on is, at the moment, you've kind of got Miles Eckhart and Ruto, and they seem to be a bit more handcrafted. And then you've got people that are like the guys at Port Alisar that take your crates that you get. Now, is that going to be your more procedurally generated type guy and versus your handcrafted people? And,
well, it goes to the branching method too. They talked about in their interview having a quest and then having that quest branch off with multiple branches, plus occasionally throwing PCs into the mix where you have that extra spontaneous random factor, which is great. But this goes back to something that I was talking with Execute about. I've been going back and playing during spring break a whole bunch of the older RPGs. Like, I've been going through the original Fallout, and I've played several other RPGs during this time. And the question that I have is, are we going to end up with something that's really the same basic mission, whether it be fetch this and sometimes get attacked, or sometimes not get attacked, or sometimes they want to stay, or different things like that, or where it's basically the same basic flavor, even though in a different spot, maybe with a couple different dialogues? Or are we actually going to be getting something that actually has the feel of a living, breathing world, where you actually run into this happens, this leads to this, and you have multiple dialogue choices, which can also lead to even more options?
Are they going to be connected? Is there going to be a quest in one system that sends you to another system, and so on and so forth? And are they going to be story-based? Are you going to meet one guy that goes, hey, you've worked for me for ages now. There's a friend of mine that I know really needs some help, and he sends you off to him, and there's a story, and you get to know people through there. And, if you meet one particular person, and depending on whether you do good things for him or bad things, and you can decide what you do for him, does it depend you on which way he sends you? That type of thing. Yes. And can you come back to him at a later date and be, you've been good and now you want to be bad, and so he sends you off towards more bad stuff now. There's lots of cool things they could do there. It's just a matter of, do they have the resources, and how long is this whole thing going to take?
Are we also going to be looking at branches that are handcrafted? Because they said multiple branches, but just think about it. If you have 5 branches, and then each of those 5 branches have 5 other random options, you're looking at a literal ton of options that can actually occur. And if you actually craft them, have a couple more or less, just, this, and then you procedurally generate a bunch of random crafted outcomes or branches, then that actually turns a procedurally generated mission into a crafted mission.
And a crafted mission is going to have a lot more replay value, I think. There's going to be some point, and we've all played MMOs and that have procedurally generated stuff, and you go, oh, this is just that same quest, but they changed that guy's name from Fred to John, and instead of killing 3 ships, I'm killing 15.
Think about Skyrim. Go clear out that bandit camp. Go do this. Go retrieve this. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's the same mission, pretty much, reskinned. And compared to something where you actually go in there, like, let's take the PI mission, even in Star Citizen now. It has some options. It can be rather interesting, and
multiple outcomes.
And just imagine, as basic as that is, if the investigation actually led to 5 possible branches, and each of those 5 possible branches took you somewhere else, and now you have the extra flavor and extra options for a crafted mission.
Yep. And then on top of that, you and I were talking a little bit before the show about how different voices and that, and I've just thought of another one, is whether it's going to be text, like the mission's going to be in text given to you, is it going to be video, is it going to be a unique character, so like Tessa Bannister, or is it going to be, so I think we're going to get all these different levels. You know, it might start out with someone that talks to you on a video, and then it might branch into something that's text or someone else.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves, which is, let's talk about Skyrim for just a second.
All right.
You walk around Skyrim and you hear the same blasted voices over and over.
I took an arrow to the knee.
Over.
That's the classic meme. I took an arrow to the knee.
Well, it's not even that. It's just the same voice actor did multiple different lines across multiple different things. Great. You have that. I would like to see ZIG be a little bit more flavor, because if that's what it's going to be and I go to every system and I'm hearing basically the same person over again, my immersion, no matter how well crafted the missions is going to be a little bit broken.
It does take a lot of time to get a lot of voice lines in there, and obviously because it's full audio, it can really drastically increase the size of the game, is in file size. And like I said, I was just thinking about that then with the video, the text, even audio recordings, or different voices. If they have different media across the way, not only does it make it feel different, but it'll also vary the file size. And I also think presenting different methods of it to us is actually kind of gives it a bit of texture, if you know what I mean. So ideally, yeah, it'd be awesome to have the whole game voiced and every quest is done by a unique character, but you got to be realistic when it comes to cost. I actually think if they got
systems,
if they got the same, like if they were clever with their actors and they could actually get an actor to do different accents. So say you were just doing a pirates example, you could have English accent pirates like UK. You could have South African, Chinese, Australian. You could have every type of piratey type of accent you could think of. And if you had different areas of the solar system that did different accents, so Stanton has Chinese style pirates, and then, you know, another part has a different accent. You know what I'm trying to say? That might be a really interesting way to vary it somewhat. Or they could literally just have every pirate is assigned a different voice actor, and maybe there is 30 pirate voices, and that they are just those 30, and that goes around every single pirate in the entire system.
But even if you had 30 and you rotated through 30 voices, it's not going to get as old as having 5 pirates going through 5 different voices and then being like, okay, now we're hearing the same guy over and over.
It's probably what they're going to do. They'll probably do something akin to that, but you will run into this. It's just going to happen. It's the nature of the game. It's the nature of games development, unfortunately. There's just a cost to these things. I think the interesting thing about CIG as time goes on, and as they build new systems after the game's been released, I think they will bring in new voice actors and add new quests and stuff like that. And so you'll find new sections basically become new content. It's pretty simple.
Well,
go ahead.
We have to look at also the multiple system aspect of this whole thing too, because we're right now looking at one system that's going to take what were you saying, like 3 years? I think you were.
I was just saying before, like we've been looking at Crusader since 2.0. And that was a year ago, a bit over a year ago now, a year and a half. And by the end of this year, they're going to have ArcCorp and Hurston done. But that still leaves Microtech and Crusader. Does that mean it's going to take another year? And that means it'll be 3 years in one system. And then you start looking at how, yeah, they have the tools done, but you've got level editors that have got to go through and do all the moons. We've only seen moons so far, by the way. Planets are heaps bigger. you've got to fill these whole systems out, and if it's going to, unless they hire a lot of people to do this, they're not going to get more than, you do the math, like it's one and it took 3 years. Yes, it'll speed up because I'll have the tools and that, but you've still got to go in and handcraft or even place these missions and place these outposts and all that stuff. And we need to know how long that's going to take, because if it's going to take, let's say there were, I can't speculate how long it's going to take to get one done, but I don't imagine them getting 100 done in 12 months. I just don't see that. It seems like a really large number.
They've talked about procedural tech, but the procedural tech only gets you so far, because you still have to go back and verify, did the computer randomly place an outpost at the bottom of the sea? Did it randomly place it hanging off a cliff?
I think that was kind of what I'm talking about. Is they're 70% generated, but all the like places you visit and all the landing zones are like big superset pieces like Levski and Port Alisar that are actually going to be handcrafted, but things like bus stops that are procedurally generated and landing zones that are procedurally generated, most of them are going to be placed by an artist. And if you look at 3.0, they were all placed by hand. And then they had, and somewhere in the base there, they'd go, this is where I want cargo to spawn. And that's where that one piece of cargo would spawn.
Well, what about the Arco procedural generated city that they showed? So what you're basically saying
that's the same thing as a planet, where instead of terrain between landing zones, so to speak, or outposts, it's city. And then there'll just be these small pockets of places where you can land and walk into a building. You're not going to be able to walk into every single building on ArcCorp, as an example, but you will be able to go to, there's this town where I can go to and land and walk into this building and I buy some stuff or get some cargo and do that. It is fundamentally the same thing across the entire place, but if they actually start procedurally generating outposts and quests, that could somewhat speed it up. But my thought is the quality, it's not going to be those handcrafted quests, it's going to be this procedurally generated stuff, and I start to worry how repetitive that's going to be, because I've never, you tell me when you've ever seen anything that's been procedurally generated, has it not become somewhat repetitive? Everyone's tried, I've never seen it done well. It just doesn't exist. There is because that same leg, say it's an animal. I've seen procedurally generated animals in Spore and stuff like that, right? That same leg will appear on another animal, and yeah, it was blue and it's got a giraffe's neck, and the other one looks like an alligator's head, but it's the same leg, and you would go, oh, that's just the same leg. And once you've seen it in your head, and you see it in another animal, it breaks that immersion, and it breaks that feeling, and it just becomes fake. And once you kind of know it's fake, it never ever goes back to how it was. And I think they know that, and I think they're trying to avoid that as much as possible. And that's why they're doing 70% procedurally, and that extra 30%, they've talked about things like the landing zones, as in, give an example, is the bus stops. They talked about going in after they've been procedurally generated and just putting in set dressings like signage. So if the place is called Port Alisar or whatever, they'll put up signs that say Port Alisar and stuff like that. So it's unique to that location. And so, yeah, it looks like it's been modularly collated at the same factory, but it's named differently, and they might wear different types of clothing in that place. We've seen them talking about the Port Alisar.
And we have some different posters in different places, and maybe a little bit of, like, one's more run down than another. There's a lot of things that they can do, but this brings back the biggest question, which I have. The 100 systems, is this like too ambitious? I'm like, this pushes the game development. Like, I think we're gonna have our 10 systems or 5 systems on release around 2022. It's just a speculative guess, but that would put the game being maybe completed. Let's say if they got 10 systems there and they're able to then do 5 to 10 systems a year with a huge team devoted mainly to that now that the game's out. You're now looking at easily 10 years before we even get to the point where they want it to be.
I think really fundamentally, I look at this like any other MMO, they are always kind of continually worked on. As long as they're, well, with a subscription-based model, as long as people are playing them, look at WoW, it's still going. They're still making expansions every 2 years. And it just goes on and on. And I think it'll be the same for Star Citizen. You know, we might talk about future funding models in another show. But, like, honestly, you look at how they're funded, and the ones that are successful, they keep making content as long as they're getting funded. And I think that'll be the same thing with Star Citizen. This game will just not end. They'll just keep adding to it over time. And those quests, as I said, will just keep coming, and you'll get more and more variety. And I actually think they might even be able to go back, if they do procedurally generate them, and update the pool of randomness, if that makes any type of sense. So,
well, that's what I was hoping, is they would eventually also retire quests and maybe make some new ones and toss them in, because that's the easiest way in a live world to make it better.
Let's hope so. All right. I think that's enough for today, don't you? Or
yes. So, guys, what do you think? I mean, do you think we're gonna need to lower our expectations a little bit? Do you think there's something else that they're gonna be able to do to make it a little bit more spicy, or what do you think?
Yeah. What are your expectations? Like, do you think in Star Citizen, I think we've kind of been a bit spoiled. Are our expectations a little bit high for what we should be expecting, or should we be expecting more, because this game has really broken a lot of boundaries? I'm interested to know what you guys think.
So, guys, definitely leave comments below, and please remember to like and subscribe.
It really does help us. All right, I've been Execute, and this is
DaseinWasHere,
and we'll see you next time.
See you.